Hi, and welcome to this live reading from The Banished Prince, Book 2 by L.E. Towne, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1, Theo. No one travels through a rift without a few bumps and bruises, but I'd managed fairly drama-free before. This time, losing my breakfast on the pristine ground of Faery was an unpleasant side effect. Maybe it was her. The warrior fringe fae who'd somehow spun us back here without the traditional portal. I disentangled our snarl of limbs before I staggered away to be sick. Yeah, I was going to blame it on her. I'm getting too old for this shit, I muttered and spat the vile taste out of my mouth before I stood up. I backed away and looked at her. Vix leaned over, hands on her knees as she panted. I took some pleasure in knowing she was at least winded from the journey. In her fighting form, she had high pointed ears, dark claws, and an elongated jaw full of razor-sharp teeth. If claws and teeth weren't formidable enough, Vix wielded a katana sword with the expertise of a samurai. Now that we were away from the human realm, she was back to her familiar countenance, very petite frame with an elfin face and thick dark hair. A being from the fringes of Faery, Vix had abilities and strength that I couldn't compete with. I was an upper fae, the ruling class apparently, and larger in height and muscle mass, but I'd spent the past 20 or so years stripped of my knack and banished to the human realm. The most recent months of my human experience had been spent being tortured in a medieval London prison. I was lucky to be alive, let alone upright. I sucked in the air of my former home, letting it revive me. The clean scent and heavy oxygen concentrate cleared my head. The air in Faery had more than just a scent. It felt like a velvet whisper on my skin, sensuous and comforting at the same time. There was a buoyancy here, a lightness, and the absence of the man made pollutants. I felt a glimmer of my old power, my knack, seeping into me from just being here. Above me, faint in the daylight sky, were the two moons of Faery, Tristan and Isolde, still separate and apart, but close enough. I knew their crossing would happen soon, and with it, all of Faery would be partying like Midwesterners at Mardi Gras. I'd been to New Orleans, the humidity carrying the sweet smell of beignets in the French Quarter, the strains of Zydeco music and trolleys clanging down Canal Street. I'd happily dodged drunks, singing with my friends and sipping daiquiris from a plastic cup as I pretended to be human. Was quite good at it by then. The thought had me thinking of Isabelle, wondering if she had ever been to NOLA, and I had the sudden urge to take her there. We'd go on a vacation. I'd show her the garden district, the jazz clubs, and we'd eat gumbo in some hole-in-the-wall restaurant. It would be amazing. She was amazing. My snippet of sunshine in a perpetually dark world, she'd saved me, literally. Pulled me out of that prison and into her comfy world of books and tea and pizza with friends. Of course, her rescue was for a reason. The Fae wanted me back here. Their threats on the human realm were subtle, coming in the form of Vix and a few others. It was enough to cause pockets of chaos across her city. She'd retrieved me from the past to her present-day Philadelphia, always knowing the Fae would snatch me away as soon as they were able. We hadn't known we'd fall in love in the interim. And now I was here, home again, possibly never to return, without Isabelle Paradiso. Vix and I had started moving, and she barely glanced at me as we made our way south. In front of me, the landscape looked pretty much the same as when I'd left decades ago. Verdant greens stretched as far as I could see, darker evergreens and purples dotting the land. The southern lands of the old summer court were lush with life, the air heady with hallucinogens. Flowers wild and waving their intoxicating scent, drawing in their prey. Rolling hills undulated across the valley, their brilliance hiding bogs deep enough to swallow a man whole. My gaze skimmed the murderous landscape to the eerie glow on the edges of the sky. The tinge of light and color against the low-hanging clouds came from Leofelt Regent, the capital of Faery. We traveled along the Crystal River, the second largest waterway in the realm. Its turquoise waters rushing over refrigerator-sized quartz, recreating a rumble so loud and unique it could be heard for miles away. Enemies and prey often hid near the river, using its noise as camouflage. Vix's silence was fine by me. It wasn't like I wanted to talk anyway, my mind still reeling from having left Izzy with barely a goodbye. I'd hoped for a little more time. I could have said things to her that should have been said. The last thing I'd wanted was to hurt her. And I had. We left River's Noise and trekked east. I trudged behind Vix. For a petite being, she was damned quick. Climbing a slight hill, we avoided the carnivorous flowers that grew wild in the thickets. I silently cursed my elder brother Leros. It was his fault the council wanted me back. The council had bided their time until he came of age and experience while he squandered all the privileges and honorariums of being first prince. Then, the minute the work started, he flaked out and refused the regency. It was up to me, the former vanguard, banished in disgrace, returned to favor, and expected to serve. Lucky me. The city was in sight. Leofelt Regent's walls were high on the horizon, the sunlight sparkling from the tiny embedded crystals in the stone, changing its hue from blues to greens to pinks as we neared. We found a trodden path through the scrub trees that would clearly lead us to the main road into the city. Vix hesitated as though looking for an alternate route. Are we not supposed to be seen? I thought they wanted me here, I asked, suddenly suspicious. Judging by her body language, she was obviously irritated at my questions. She chose the road. I followed, grumbling. I'm Theo, by the way, not that you'll ever address me. Nay, sir. A stern voice sounded from just behind me. You are third youngling of the house of Asteria, formerly of Summer's Court and heir apparent of Leofelt Regent and all Faery. I turned to see a wizened old elf about 4 feet tall. He looked like your typical fairy tale elf, though a bit grumpier, if I'm honest. Fluffy white hair and prominently pointed ears, bright blue eyes that missed nothing. I knew this from experience. Growing up in a big house with a military father and a brother being groomed for the regency, I was left to my devices as a child. Knowing my penchant for trouble, Knightley had taken me under his wing. Knightley! I rushed toward him, ridiculously glad to see my old friend. The older sprite scuttled back, his gnarled hand out. Comport yourself in the accustomed manner, Triu. He called me by my childhood name. I stopped and straightened my posture, reverting to the typical Upper Fae reserve. Leshkiel. My apology came out in the old language. You may not see them, but you have been observed the moment you stepped into Faery. You are the new heir apparent and must act as such. His beard and mustache twitched as he held back a smile. His only offer of affection was a touch of my elbow as he indicated we should move along. Though it is good to see you as well, he hesitated before saying quietly, I had not thought I'd see you again in my lifetime. Me either, I said. Knightley was one of the select few that I'd missed upon leaving Faery. I see you have some parts lacking, his sharp eyes flicked over my face. I reached up and touched the patch over my missing eye. Humans are quite brutal and not at all as weak as the Fae assume. Vix made a small noise of derision, which both of us ignored. We slowed our pace to create some distance from her. She could probably hear everything anyway, but it felt better having at least the illusion of privacy. I see, he said. Any other parts missing we should know about? What? No. As you can see, I'm fine. You said they were brutal. You're missing an eye and limping slightly. I am not limping. I stopped limping. I could have used a few more days of rest before being whisked back here, but nothing to be done now. It was rumored that they had cut more than just an eye out. His gaze moved downward a moment, leveled at my crotch. How the hell did they know that? My face grew hot. During my very unpleasant stay at the prison, my torturer made an attempt at castration. An unsuccessful attempt, I was happy to say, if I had any inclination toward talking about it, which I did not. Of course, Knightley would ask. He served the realm of Faery, and I was here because I was next in line for the throne. Siring an heir was almost as important as winning a war for them. First of all, I'm not limping. Second, you'll just have to take my word that everything works down there. I stopped talking. I could never keep a secret from Knightley. Even as a youngling, I would confess to whatever mischief I'd been up to. But this subject would lead to Isabelle, and that relationship was forbidden. She was human. I was Fae. End of discussion. It didn't matter if we were apart now. The fact that it happened would endanger my future, my life even. I trusted Knightley, but didn't want to burden him with that secret. We changed topics. I asked about Lapis Lazuli, my family home, and he filled me in on the latest gossip among the staff. As we neared the city, the road gained a fair amount of traffic. We found ourselves beside travelers, much more than I was used to, some with all their belongings piled high on a wagon, others walking, packs on their backs. Many families, some on horseback, others still in solar-powered carriages. I was still wrestling with Knightley's questions about producing an heir. If I was unable to perform as expected, would that get me out of this gig? I mean, there's no guarantee I can sire an heir regardless of working parts, right? They could just send me back. The human realm was now home. Isabelle, Reg, the little blue house. It was home to me. Knightley stopped in his tracks, looking up at me with his knowing eyes. Is there something I should know, lad? I don't want to be here. My voice wobbled at the end, making it more of a question than a statement. They cast me out. I was disgraced, unspeakable, remember? My blood rose at the memory. I'd been sent on a mission to retrieve a gifted warrior and coerce her to become a fighter in our endless skirmishes. Instead, I found a human girl who changed me. Isabelle Paradiso. Knowing I couldn't deceive her, I told her the truth in the end. Revealing the Fae realm and Faery to a human elicited a death sentence for both of us. Only an impassioned speech and a fairy's intervention saved both of us. Instead of execution, I was banished. Tam's memories of Faery, of me, were blocked for years. No matter what the need for her skills, it's not right to kidnap and coerce someone to fight in your wars. I spoke too harshly to Knightley. None of it was his fault. Don't be a dullard. You know the reason you were a Diothu. He used the Fae word for banished. Was because of your entrancement with the human. The sprite sighed, and I saw his tiredness and age for the first time. It is days long past, Triu, and your folk need you now, and not just for siring an heir. If that were the case, Leiros would have stayed. No. A capable regent is needed to unite the clans, inspire confidence in our ability to survive the dark elves. Faery is in trouble, and the council cannot seem to agree on what to do about it. What about General Prime? Your father is a fine leader. You know this. A military strategist of the First Order, but without the bloodline, he could never rule. He must fight for every resource in both warriors and weaponry to keep our borders safe. It sounds like Council Prime hasn't changed since I've been gone. Fix had stopped, and we moved to catch up with her, resuming our trek toward the city. Beside me, Knightley let out a sigh. This is Faery, lad, and change comes very slowly to Faery.